Have you ever felt trapped by a circumstance you're in, a situation, a person, maybe financial situation you're in? All of these things can make us feel trapped at one time or another in our lives. And I think many people do feel trapped, at least at one or more points in their life. We're going to talk today about this phenomenon and how you can more easily navigate it, how you can work yourself through it. So many things in our lives can make us feel trapped. And I differentiate this from the idea of being stuck because often when we're stuck, it's an internal issue that's causing us to feel stuck. Today, I'm really focusing on the externals. So the things that make us feel trapped because of the circumstances we're in. It's not necessarily an emotional issue inside, although it is possible you could have an emotional issue that will make it more difficult to deal with circumstances. So it'll make you maybe feel more easily trapped. So the kinds of things that make us feel trapped, well, we can feel trapped in a job situation. We can feel trapped in a family situation that we're in. We can feel trapped in any other kind of relationship, whether it's a marriage or a friendship. We can feel trapped by health issues, either someone else's or our own. And again, that's a little more complicated when you're dealing with health issues because there's not always an easy way to navigate that or an easy way to get through that. So, and we can definitely feel trapped by financial circumstances. In other words, we're in a situation where we either have too much debt and or not enough money coming in, and it kind of makes us feel like we're drowning all the time. So these are the kinds of issues that can make us feel trapped. And that's really what the focus is going to be. Now, again, if there are you have pre-existing issues psychologically that cause you to feel more trapped than the average person, then obviously you probably need to work on those as well. But I'm going to talk about some ways and a process by which you can deal with the issue of just feeling trapped. Now, some people tend to feel more trapped more easily than other people based on our own personality, our psychology, and just pre-existing kinds of issues. Some people are more prone to depression and or anxiety, and thus feeling trapped will be much more difficult. I've shared before on this channel before that I've had a lot of anxiety issues in my life, and I've actually felt trapped quite a few times in my life, and they are always difficult circumstances for me to get through. And that's one of the reasons I'm sharing this today, because I know how challenging it can be to get through a feeling of being trapped. And I'm hoping that what I share with you will help you today. So let me give you just a little bit of an example from my own life of feeling trapped. Back when I was 22 years old, I joined the Peace Corps, and I've shared a couple of circumstances from that in other videos on my channel. And it was a very challenging situation. I mean, I'd gone through college and graduated from college. I'd had jobs and things like that. But when I went to Africa in the Peace Corps, 1977, it was way out of my comfort zone, like so much farther out of my comfort zone than I could even have imagined. And I was challenged in ways I basically could not have even conceived of before I went there. And so I felt very trapped because once I was there, I couldn't just pack up and leave. You have a contract to fulfill. You're with the Peace Corps, and you're there for a set amount of time. Now I did end up leaving early, and but it was still a process. It's not like something I could just do, and say, hey, I'm going to be gone tomorrow. It wasn't that easy. So it was a very difficult situation to be in and feel trapped. And there was a lot of stuff going on when I was over there. There was a lot of health challenges that I and other volunteers went through. There was a potential military coup on the dictator of the country while I was there that created problems for us. There were also some other more minor situations that occurred, but could have involved us having to, flee across the border to Ghana, which was the neighboring country. So I remember that feeling of being trapped or feeling trapped in a very real physical sense, but in an emotional sense as well, because I didn't have control over my own fate. And that's very often what causes us to feel trapped, is because there's a lack of control somewhere there. We have to keep a job because we need the money. We have to be in a relationship because we know or we think that we can't survive out on our own. We can't quickly turn around our financial situation, and so it makes us feel very trapped. And right now in my life, I'm going through some issues, especially financial, that make me feel very trapped. I don't have, I have enough money to live on, but I don't have the money to be able to go on a little road trip, or, well, I don't have a car to go on a little road trip, but I don't have the resources to be able to do things like that, which during the pandemic, and it really made me crave wanting to just get out and drive and go on little trips, even for just a day or two. But I just haven't been able to do it. I haven't had the resources and ability to do it. And it's starting to get to me. Because before 5 years ago, I always had a vehicle that was, in good shape, and I could take off even for the day. And I'm one of those people that, I don't know about you, but I need to just go somewhere sometimes, just little places, not big trips, and that sort of thing, but just get away for a day or two or a couple, 3 days, something like that. So I haven't been able to do that, and I've been feeling very trapped by it. So that's what prompted me to do this video, because I've been feeling a lot of it myself. And I thought, I bet a lot of people, especially if you think back to the earlier, maybe 2 years of the pandemic, we all felt very trapped, literally, by a situation that we had no control over. So I think people are feeling this more in the world today, partially as a result of the pandemic and other issues that are going on in the world today. So anyway, I'm going to share with you some strategies, really 5 strategies for how to work through when you're feeling trapped. So we're going to start with the first one. And this is assuming that right off the bat, you've, checked inside and figured out whether you have some other kinds of emotional issues that are going on that cause you to feel trapped. Because again, you need to really deal with those first, maybe going and seeking a therapist or seeking other types of help. But the first one, if you're working through just an external kind of issue that makes you feel trapped, is to observe what it is. You have to be able to identify what it is and be able to kind of step back from it for a second to look at it very objectively, so that you take the emotion out of it and you can say, this is what I'm dealing with. So in my case, it would be, I'm dealing with the fact that I have a very limited income, and I still have some debts, and I really don't have hardly any extra money every month. That's what I'm dealing with. That's the objective reality of what I'm dealing with. So the first step is to be able to do that. You have to kind of step outside of the emotion and just say, this is what is happening. Now, the second step in this is to focus on what you can control. Focus on what you can control. In other words, you don't have any control over certain things. If you're at a job and you're not the boss, someone has to tell you what to do, then obviously you're not in total control over your situation. But what you can do is focus on what you can control. In other words, what can you control about your day? In my case, with the money situation, it's what can I control? In other words, can I cut back any of my spending at all so that I have a little bit of extra money to maybe save up to be able to do something in a couple of months or something like that? So in other words, what do I have control over? Am I able to bring in any kind of little extra money here or there, selling some things, that sort of thing, to be able to have some extra money? That's something I can look into. That's something I can control. And by putting the focus on something you can do rather than what you can't do, it gives you more of a sense of empowerment. And that's really important to this. The third step in this is really to create a vision for how you want it to be. How do you want your life to be? In other words, what would make you feel less trapped? How do you want things to be? So in my situation with the financial part of it, it's feeling like, hey, I've got some money, like maybe every 2 months or every 3 months, I could even rent a car for a day or two and just go on a little day trip or 2 day trip. That would make me, that would be that's a realistic vision to plan for. Now, if your vision is that you're going to go on a round the world trip that's, would cost tens of thousands of dollars, that may not be realistic. So that's more dreaming rather than creating this like realistic vision of what you could have. And then the fourth step is make a plan of those things you can control and the things that you have you want to create. How do you get there? So for me, it's, I'm going to sell some things online. That's going to give me a little bit of extra money to begin a fund that I can use to go on these designated trips. So that's part of the plan. Where is the money coming from? How much can I bring in over the next 2 or 3 months to at least be able to do something small? And so your plan, depending on your situation, will look, obviously different, but I'm just giving you an example from my situation at the moment. And then the last step here is to take that first step. I know that sounded weird. The last step is to take the first step. But the last one of these is to take that first step. So whatever that means, if you want to quit your job, let's take it out of the situation I'm in right now. And if you wanted to quit a job, what would be your first step? Well, probably to look for another job. So literally start searching for another job and start applying for other jobs. And I've given you these 5 steps, but I just want to remind you that there's a lot of emotion surrounding this. When we make a change in our life, even if it's necessary for our well-being, psychologically, physically even, when we make a change, it can sometimes bring up a lot of emotion. And so we have to deal with that. It can be fear, it can be frustration, it can be anxiety. There's a lot of feelings that can come up surrounding making changes in our life. So be aware of that when you're doing it and expect that you're going to have some, unless you're a person that's not emotional at all, expect that you're going to have some emotion around this at times. And that's okay. It's perfectly fine to have the emotion. Just work through it. Take deep breaths. Think about what you're feeling. Even journal it out if you need to. And then just keep moving forward, as I say. Just keep going on to the next step. So I hope these have helped you today. I hope this will help you if you're faced with a situation where you feel trapped. I noticed when I was kind of looking at other things that people were saying online, there were a lot of videos about people feeling stuck, but not necessarily feeling trapped. And they are 2 different types of feelings. And they are 2 different types of circumstances based on whether they're internal or external. And we can feel trapped when we are dealing with a chronic illness of our own. Maybe we have something that's manageable but isn't going to go away. That can make us feel trapped. And when we're dealing with someone else that we have to care for, whether it's a parent or a child or some other person that's close to us, a husband or wife, those things can make us feel trapped too, but we have to deal with it. And so it is important in those instances to have a plan, to be able to step away as needed so you don't develop caregiver burnout, and give yourself the rest and recuperation as needed during that process as much as possible. So whether that's an afternoon away a couple of times a week or a day away every other week, whatever it is, you really need to build that in so that you don't feel as trapped by the situation. So I hope this has helped you today. If you've enjoyed this video, please would you give it a like down below, and also if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please, I'd really appreciate you subscribing. It would mean a lot, and it's free. And I don't usually ask that in videos, but I'm going to start doing it occasionally because when you don't ask, I think sometimes people just forget. They forget to hit the like button or they forget to subscribe, and it doesn't mean they didn't like it. They just, they don't think about it. So I am reminding you today. I really would appreciate it if you would do that. So until next time, be well, be kind, keep moving forward, take care. Bye.